Stefano Bosisio, working for Synthesia, and I'm Italian, so a strong homemade coffee with my own machine.
We are back for another MLOps Community Podcast. I am your host, as always, Dimitrios. Today, talking with Stephano, we got into some of his biggest failures as he has learned how to be an ML engineer and learned how to create ML platforms. He went from the world of PhDs in chemistry to building ML platforms at financial companies, aka banks, to starting from scratch and having to build out what he called a Ferrari of an ML platform, only to realize that it got no internal adoption. Let's get into it with Stephano, and hopefully you do not make the same mistakes as he did because you learned from what he talked about today. I will also call out that he recently released a course on the MLOps community learning platform. Highly encourage anyone who is looking to learn how to ask the right questions when you are building out your ML platform to go check out the course, enroll. Stephano is a class act, and in this course, he specifically goes through the 101s of building an ML platform with open source tools and then with a tool like Vertex AI. Let's get into it. Dude, well, talk to me about moving from academia to the industry. I know you have a strong background in chemistry, and then you've done a whole wide array of different things now since you've moved out of the academia industry. But what has that been like?
Everything starts back like more than 10 years ago when I was a very little Italian engineer with a degree in biomedical engineer. I was so deeply in love at the time. At the time, AI, as everybody's saying, wasn't a thing. But it was a thing, though. Like, if we see the conversation with Gans and so on, it was a thing since 1991 and even before. But no one really applied very well. Like, TensorFlow was the first package I think it was released. But yeah, to make it short, I was, the passion of research was totally firing me up. I was on fire. I want to do research. I want to discover things. Yeah. I was in love with genetics and so on, and physics, and so I say, wonderful, I want to do a PhD. And that's how everything started, unfortunately, maybe. So that's how I landed in Edinburgh, Scotland, for a PhD in computational chemistry. It was 2014, if I'm not wrong. Amazing. So something I always recommend to everybody. So if you feel yourself, you have the passion for research, want to discover something new, you want also to continue to study, give yourself a chance and try to maybe apply for a PhD. Who cares if you're not earning money? I still remember I was getting...
That can come later.
Yeah, I was getting like something about, I can tell you numbers without problems, £1,000 a month. I was very stressed the situation because you got all the expenses. The British pound was very strong compared to the euro, so coming from Italy wasn't helpful enough. But apart from that, it was an amazing experience, really. So I always be thankful to my supervisor because when you're trying to do research, at some point you start coding up, maybe, especially computational research. Coding up, which means maybe my level of coding was more or less zero, and then you start to get more around Python, C++ at the time as well, and say, cool, I can do serious stuff from here. And, well, I would say the level of details you can get through, you can get very deep inside, like multiprocessing or crazy stuff, and statistics as well, because that was the theme of the PhD at the end. That you're gonna acquire a lot of skills. The only problem is maybe that you're too attached to academia. So you're too attached to a way of thinking. So you think everyone knows what you're talking about. you really don't have a lot of soft skills. You don't know exactly how to interact with people. This might be a problem of many supervisors as well. Not mine, thankfully. He's a great guy. But of course, that's part of the game. And from there, what happened? The PhD is finished. So that rings me a bell saying it's time to find a job. A job where, what, and who? Well, it was 2018, if I'm not wrong. So it was since 2016, there's been a huge hype for data scientists. So since I did a lot of coding, a lot of physics, a lot of maths and statistics, I said, what the hell, I can do this thing. I can give it a try and jump on a joint venture. So I'll say that was the very first contrast in my life, passing from academia to a real company. The first jump I've done was working as a data scientist for a fintech company. So it was a bank. We were selling products like mortgages, loans, credit cards, whatever a bank can sell, we were selling.
Yeah.
But it was a good time to join the company because they were trying to build up this new data science team. So what's data science? At that time, the question was, what is data science? What can we do? What a data scientist can do? But yeah, Demetrius, it was an amazing opportunity, good memories, but very harsh to understand what I had to do, passing from a PhD to a company. I remember many times these people were just talking about acronyms or weird financial stuff. I say, what? Who? Where? And I was trying to say, guys, this is like simple stuff, like introducing GitHub. This is GitHub. This is how it works. Can you see? We can keep track of the code and so on. But it was very hard to give people, to deliver this message maybe to people, as well as building models, as well as the way we were building models, because, I was used to run my stuff on a Ubuntu machine, freely, do whatever I want, as many GPUs as I want, right? And while here, we were very constrained on Windows laptop. You can't install anything because, of course, there might be, all the packages must pass through some security checks and so on. So it was a heart attack for me. But it was a good opportunity, a very good opportunity, if I see now back in time, that gave me a lot of initial skills that many PhD students can't acquire, unfortunately. The PhD environment is very protected. Although I'm strongly a supporter for PhDs, sometimes I say, yes, but please make sure you can get also some soft skills course, or do think of these soft skills, because they're not as useless as you might think initially. They're super useful, and once you learn them, you'll open up a lot of doors. So that's more or less how everything started, and how I changed my fire for research to a fire for data. There's been, of course, many familiar thoughts. Like I would say, many reasons why I didn't continue with academia. Like, not only the fact that you always have to look for grants and so on, but it was mainly because my wife and I loved Edinburgh and wanted to stay here a bit more. So say, okay, I can have a break from academia and jump into this data science thing. But it was super amazing. It was super amazing, really.
Well, you have since evolved, basically taken the evolution from academia to the industry, working with fintech. And then you started to recognize that just data science isn't enough, I imagine. And if you want people to have value from the work that you're doing as a data scientist, you need to learn a little bit more of the platform side of things. Can you talk about standing up different platforms and when that realization hit you?
Yes, totally. You're 100% right. And also here, there's a nice story. So I told you, I was in this fintech. And gosh, we were developing models. and now that I think I start laughing because we were developing models on a Python notebook, of course. And, there's this amazing theme of pushing notebooks to production. Nothing against a solo right. Deploy whatever you want. I'm totally fine if you manage to deploy. But at some point, of course, we were struggling the level of going forward. And like at that time, I think there wasn't a real understanding yet of the MLOps practices. So what happened is that we had a DevOps team, and there was us, like call it data ops. We were developing model, and they were trying to do something with these models, but something I didn't clear. Like I remember the time we had some weird EC2 instances. There weren't even EC2 instances on AWS. Kind of mixture, and these guys were taking the binary file, the model, and trying to make it run it couldn't even run in real time. It was a very convoluted system to get to something and get a little bit of value out of what we were doing. So as you can imagine, the value itself was very hard to deliver because there's also something I'm telling everybody. If you can't exploit as much as you can the business value out of your data or out of your work, then unfortunately there's a lot of things to do because we do need the business value. So my manager at the time, another good guy, take me for a meeting and say, Steph, there we go. This is AWS. Why don't you develop an ML platform? Say, I don't know anything, but I can try to see what you're talking about. So in those, I think, 3 months, I had a huge, deep immersion into AWS, trying to understand what was going on and trying again to reinvent something for my career. So initially I said, okay, I'll be a data scientist, I'll develop a nice models. And then I was starting to look at ML platforms, say, these ML engineers know something that I don't know. And so initially, there wasn't really, I think, also many resources because it was still 2019. It's through I can't remember when the MLOps community was founded.
2020.
Oh, right.
So we weren't around yet.
So
yeah.
we weren't still yet a thing. So I said, where do I find all these resources? There were all good books about AWS and how to maybe make things communicating. And so the first thing was a lot of philosophical discussion of what we really need to do, what we mean by deployment, how we can decompose all the problems we had. So it was really nice because it was reattaching myself to my engineering background. So giving a problem, try to split into sub-problems and try to reconnect everything in this weird jigsaw. And so, from there, I started thinking, okay, we need something for data processing. And then I said, okay, we need something for model training. Okay, how can we really train the model, and what can we do with the binary files that we have or the model themselves, how we can really spin them up. So it was an amazing journey because it allowed me to really start from simple. So develop your ML platform with Lambda functions and step functions, and then try to make up something more robust. So it was the time for Glue for data processing, using a proper database, create a data structure, let people start to communicate better with people and make them understand what we need to do with data, what we need to do with the model, why we need all this weird stuff. I remember it was very hard. I think nowadays it's super hard as well to talk to very senior managers about these things. That was a lesson. Of course, they don't need to know all these nitty-gritty details about what an ML platform is. They just want the business value. And what I was trying to do was to give them the business value, but say, watch, this is amazing. But apart from that...
Show them a demo for an hour. Give them an hour demo and show them how amazing it is.
It's what I tried to do, but it was very hard, really. But apart from that, it was an amazing opportunity, really, to try to understand how an ML platform could be developed and try to think really of naive terms of what MLOps could be. So trying to get more into the MLOps perspective. So what we're trying what we are trying to do, what we're trying to achieve. And especially if you think with very limited resources, because still I was working with my limited Windows laptop, so developing coding was the worst experience ever, and even pushing code to AWS was a real nightmare. We did needs also IT to to be in the middle to say, okay, well, this data must be pushed over there, okay. But it has definitely moved a lot of conversation. Also, I think we were one of the first banks where we were trying to develop for real an ML platform. So really think of all the entire ML journeys, really think how ML models should be created and constructed. So it was an amazing thing, and really, and this time, my passion for MLOps started to fire up. What the hell? I say, whoa, and it wasn't MLOps, it was engineering, ML engineering in total. Say, oh, I could develop model, but I could also push them to production. I think something similar. So that was the way, maybe the kick I had. It was really, I don't know, maybe it's the fate, whatever, that pushed me down this direction and trying to navigate a bit more into the MLOps sector. And gave me also the, at some points I was fed up with all the financial things. Say, okay, good financials, but I'm not getting a bonus as high as the senior manager, so I'm leaving. And so I started to deeply focus really on MLOps. And that's also where I got to know the MLOps community, because I started work really as an ML engineer for another company, browsing an internet, spotted MLOps community. What are these guys doing? And that opened up an entire series of great things.
Dude, well, channeling my inner Bezos, because you're talking about AWS and you're talking about things that were hard back then and are still hard, a la talking to senior management. I would love to know what you feel like over the years hasn't changed when working with MLOps.
Hasn't changed.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. A lot has changed, right? But what hasn't?
Hasn't changed. Stakeholders. So what the first thing that popped into my mind, okay, stakeholders, okay, two things that hasn't changed. Stakeholders and selling products. What I mean is this, stakeholders is the major things, I think. And this is something, again, it's very hard to grasp, especially, I think, if you're changing career, if you're moving from academia to companies and so on, as the way you're communicating. So, every child, as an engineer, it's very easy for us to create a new product, right? Do we want an experiment tracker? Boom, there we go. Do you want a super cluster with 30 nodes, 100 nodes, 1,000 nodes? There we go. Do you want auto scaling? There we go. But what doesn't change is the way we're communicating. We're doing a magnificent job, right? But it's very hard to communicate and express the business value out of it to more senior managers, of course, or even our stakeholders. Like many times it happened to me. I was working for this company where we were really creating the very first ML platform for the entire company. And gosh, one day I had the realization, the epiphany that we made an amazing job. We had an automatic way to train models. All the models were registered. All the models could have been keep track of all the experiments. It was everything very neat and polished.
Monitoring it all.
Even monitoring, which is it was the holy grail that time. If your data are a bit shady, that's why we have monitoring in place. We even had data pipelines for validating data.
Nice.
And gosh, people were not using it. I had 2 weeks of depression or even a month. And I say, why people are not using this thing? Because it's amazing. I say, the people should jump in and say, oh, Stephano, this is an amazing product.
You were expecting an award? You were...
What the hell? Or
at least to go and give some talk. Yeah.
And something I was expecting fireworks, because something like that, but nothing. We're really bouncing against a wall. And that's maybe I'm naive, but that's the realization I had to say, I didn't communicate properly with my data science team. Which means it's not only having meetings where you're explaining what you're doing, it's not having stand-ups where you're showing the Jira board and so on. It's giving demo, tutorials, taking time with them, And it's a huge effort. It's a huge amount of time, but you must dedicate this to these people. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere. Like I remember I started to record myself and giving tutorials to, for example, show how to ship a new pipeline for training, or how these things are automatic and how they can improve our way of doing, right? But at the same time, they were also deploying instantaneously if the model was behaving well and so on. So writing documentation as well was another thing. Like I spent hours on all our packages writing documentation.
Wow.
I say, okay, if you want to use this, you need this, this, and this. If it doesn't work, of course, we are here to help. So like being more like a 24/7 support team, we are here to help, making sure everyone knows that we are here to help, so that people could say, oh, okay, so I want to create a new model. I can go to Stefano's team and ask what are the best practices and do. Because, we were getting hidden by everybody, basically, because no one knows what we were doing, why we were doing some stuff, what was the value we were giving to them. So I think the communication is something that I had to spend a lot of time, and as well as
Well, wait, before you get into the next point, you basically had every founder's worst nightmare, which was launching to crickets, right? And you should have told me, because I would have given you an award for sure of best ML platform that's never been used, or something along those lines. We would have, in the MLOps community yearly awards, we could have totally given you that. But the thing that I am fascinated by is how you attribute the failure to your own lack of evangelizing for the product that you were building. And so it was almost like you did not build enough in public, like internally in the company. You weren't showing people, like you said, you weren't doing demos, you weren't properly documenting or having potentially like pair programming sessions or just like learning sessions with the data scientists. Were the data scientists your only stakeholders, or were there other folks from different teams too?
Yeah, also product managers or the user experience team, data analysts, a lot of data analysts as well, because we were also giving tools to data analysts. So that was amazing, like the ability to query in real-time data through simple SQL queries. What the hell, Demetrius, we made an amazing job, but it wasn't received correctly. But you're right, you know what?
What a platform. What a platform. Oh my God. All right. Well, I'm patting you on the back a few years too late.
Like, I think back in time, it was an amazing job that we've done. And like, it was really a good case study to start to learn how to do MLOps for real. And write this stuff on the MLOps community Slack channels.
Yeah.
We had this.
Yeah, you got a lot of questions answered in there. That's funny. That's awesome.
But yeah, as you said, I think you do need to really do an effort to show yourself to the business. That's a bit like to show what you're really doing, so that people can have an idea at least. And that's not easy. Also, some people will hate this, unfortunately. But gosh, please try to put yourself into someone else's shoes. Try to speak up a little bit more, because it's very important. Unfortunately, many people I've worked with are very shy, introvert, and so on. So they love coding. They're amazing coders, but I'm not the best coder ever. Actually, I'm very bad. But these people are amazing. Like, I say, okay, but wait. Try to push a bit more on these things. Also, one thing that is very important sometimes is the emotional intelligence. I think you do need to understand what are the feelings of other people while you're talking. So be empathic and so on. That's even another level of communication, but it's very important so that you can match up, find the right communication skills. And so, for example, I know that with Tom, I have to talk in this way. With Frederick, I have to talk in this other way. And so on. So being like, how to say, a Swiss knife, where you get all the tools that are hitting properly where you want. Because otherwise, unfortunately, if no one is using your platform, it might be like this shiny beast, but no one will use it. Your company is actually spending money because the infrastructure is up. So the money are anyway flowing, and at some point the CEO will say, "Hey, what are this money?" So that's a huge effort.
Yeah, it's like you have a Ferrari and you're taking it to the supermarket.
But that's what I'm saying. Indeed, when I remember I was used to organize for this company what's so-called ML clubs. So like I was inviting guests from externally from the company to show their data science cases and so on. And one day we tried to make something internal, like inviting all the company and show what the data science department is doing. So data scientists will do this, data analysts will do that, MLOps is doing this. And I think the best definition I had for MLOps was we're trying to build up a Ferrari. Data scientists are the drivers, and we are the mechanics. So we're trying to make the Ferrari even better so they can go as quick as possible and win all the races. But that's the thing. And if you want bonus points, another thing that hasn't changed is like people selling you ad hoc bespoke solutions, which are super expensive, but they don't work. But we can close the panel.
That's a hot take. Wait. You can't just stop talking after that. Tell me more.
So I remember many times we had chats with either external companies or cloud providers. I will not say which ones. That at that time the MLOps wasn't still quite a thing, so that's why. But they were trying to say, you could use they were just showing an infrastructural diagram, right? So nothing really complicated, something that you could do yourself. But of course they were creating this for you, and they were asking like more than £100,000 a year just for it, plus access to all your data. Say, okay, wait a second. This didn't change. I can still nowadays I can see a lot of solutions which are okay, amazing effort, but this can be replicated by a good engineering team. If you don't have money for an engineering team, then it's okay to go for these solutions. Otherwise, just develop internally. That's my 2 cents.
So this is fascinating to think about because there's always that ROI trade-off that you're going to be looking at. And is it best for your strong engineering team to go and build this themselves, or to just buy it and then it unblocks them to go and build other cool stuff, right? And so that's the fun thing that the leadership, I'm sure, would love to hear from you about and say like, wait, so what's this and why would we need it? Why do you think it's important or whatever?
Yeah, well, you hit a good point though. I think it depends. Like if you want to deliver immediately something, you do need to like many startups at the beginning of the race of the journey might decide to go for external products just because they're already done. They just cost some money, but you can't afford an engineering team. But if you have your team, I think to give them a chance, try to understand their potential, what they can build, what they can do, is also like very satisfactory from the human point of view, right?
And sometimes it's just egregious what if you look at SageMaker and the prices on the SageMaker versus if you were to do it yourself, the endpoints are like 8x more expensive, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, another good point.
So there are things where you can, and that's why I'm a huge fan of FinOps and figuring out, are there ways that we're doing things now that with just a little bit of tweaking, we can ideally save a lot of money.
Yes.
So is there low-hanging fruit that we did when we were trying to go fast?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we now can go and almost like refactor our vendors and who we are supporting and make sure that we're just getting the best and the most out of every tool that we're using. Otherwise, we can cut it.
100% agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So then, all right, you built a few platforms, you learned the value of that internal evangelism.
Yep.
You also had the experience of learning what exactly MLOps was. Do you feel like, and this is a question that I constantly am thinking about, because you've had many different use cases. Are there pieces that you can generalize and say, in general, I'm almost always going to need these parts of the pipeline or of the platform? If you are doing something with computer vision, it might be totally different. And that's kind of why I wonder if you can generalize on this. Like, you're still going to be you're dealing with data, right? But a computer vision problem is way different than a fintech fraud detection problem.
Yeah, you're right. $100 million question. But this is something like I'm bouncing on right now in my current job, because we're dealing with a lot of computer vision problems. Like, so now our data are videos and not tabular word, and this is a drastic change. So, like, I would say that on the paper, like, you need to carefully subdivide all your problems. So, like, the starting point is always the data, right? So how can we make sure we have a data platform? How we can make sure that data engineers know what we want and people can query their data easily. What does it mean querying a video? As you know, it might be querying like a path to a bucket where you have a video. I might be querying metadata of the video. So if you see in this way, it looks like the tabular problem and the computer vision problem might be similar. It's a query, you need metadata, you need to know where your video are. Okay, this can be maybe generalized. So overall, data pipelines are always there. Maybe for computer vision problem, also for computer vision problem, for example, thinking of general case, they could validate data. For example, you might have a video whose length is 0 seconds, you see. What's a video? How 0 seconds? Or you can extract like audio information, right? And from there you can make up of some validation tools. What, for example, is not general is the way, of course, you're treating the video. So you must be critic enough to understand what's the business case you're investigating over. Do you need a YOLO detect because you want to detect something, or you want to, as you know, general description of videos and so on? So, but here we're going on to a deeper level. So I think on the general point of view, maybe data side, we could say, okay, there's a database. The database may work differently, but overall, what are we going to use? As you know, Athena, Postgres, BigQuery, Bigtable. Yes, these tools are always on the standard side of data ops. And then you move forward and you start to think, okay, the next problem is how I can make people training a model. So I think personally, for training models, we're converging to more best practices and standard ways. So like, okay, I know that you're not, but I am. I'm a big fan of Kubeflow. Love for Kubeflow. The majors.
I got nothing against Kubeflow.
The power of AI. Love for Kubeflow.
Look at that.
This is AI for Mac. So, like, I think overall what you need is to create a training pipeline, right? A pipeline that is able to retrieve your data and then crunch this data and generate a model, whatever. Now, let's not take into account LLMs for a second. If we need to create a training pipeline, this problem can be easily generalized also, in my opinion, can be easily generalized. Because what's the difference between creating a random forest and creating a model that maybe is running a YOLO algorithm or an object detection algorithm? At the end of the day, the pipeline will retrieve the data that you need. It will process the data that you need. It will train your model, right? So more or less, and this is why I'm a strong supporter of Kubeflow, is because if you're also reducing the learning barrier to your stakeholders, And Kubeflow is very easy to be used because you just need add component, add pipeline. The engineers will create as SDK for you, so you can just ship whatever you want. Okay, we're a step forward, so we are reaching a great level. Then different points for LLMs. LLMs, of course, are huge models. So the way we are training also these models is just slightly different. You need different infrastructures. I don't think Kubeflow may support any LLMs. I never heard of it, but
yeah, I haven't heard that either.
In principle, but better not to. There are better methods to train models. Right? So, okay, if you go down the road, but the matrix is a question for you. How many companies are using and training LLMs?
Yeah, very few.
Okay, so 90% of the companies nowadays will still enjoy using, and sorry if I'm saying, logistic regression, random forest, super deep forest algorithms, right? So, guys, think carefully about the cost you're injecting in your company, because it's meaningless like spending $1 million a month for training an LLMs from scratch when you can do a 95% accurate and amazing job with a random forest. Whatever forest you want, or whatever algorithms you want, right? The last step is, of course, the deployment. So deployments, I think we are not converging yet, in my personal opinion. There are tons of ways to deploy models, and this is really depending on any company. So like, there might be companies who would like to use Vertex AI endpoints. Okay, pay the money, and you can deploy them. There are companies which say, no, we have, we're going to hit an EC2 instance, or we're going to have our own Kubernetes infrastructure, so we got all the endpoints we want. Okay, computer vision, that's another terrible problem. You need machines which are, of course, able to do the video rendering as well. So here, I think the navigation is a bit complicated, but I hope we are converging to specific direction.
I think, Andy came on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how, for him, the change to LLMs versus traditional machine learning and also deep learning or computer vision and all that fun stuff doesn't really change much about how he thinks about the platform. What it does change is how he builds, or the tools that he needs to add to the platform, right? And so it's what he was saying, and I really like this idea. I like most of Andy's ideas, but I thought his idea around creating an ecosystem, allowing your platform to be looked at as an ecosystem where if someone wants to use an LLM, they can. If someone wants to use that traditional ML, they can. If someone has a computer vision problem, they can. And obviously that is like maturity level 500 versus your maturity level like 1, and you're just trying to get a few models out and make sure that they are reliable and consistent. But for me, what became very clear is that LLMs are very much a part of the conversation and what people want when we talk about doing ML and AI these days. And so how can you set up the platform now to leverage the gigantic transformer models that are out there, whether it's an open source llama that you grab, or you're hitting GPT-3 or GPT-4?
Amazing question again. So I think I partially agree with what Andy said, because this is the dream platform. So like, it's something we're always trying to create, right, for any company. Like you got this metaverse where you can ping the service you want, and this will do all the rest. When it comes to the LLMs now, the discussion is, like, as you said, we could actually using like Hugging Face, for example, APIs, or calling public APIs to use these LLMs. Nothing against, it's totally fine, and it's not so complicated to have them deployed, because all you will need is just a simple microservice that spins up for your request. So your engineering team could even create a simple package where you're just importing all the models you need. And these models can be freely pinged from let's call it from the internet. The only caveat sometimes that I'm thinking of these solutions is, what if there's downtime on the external services, so you're blocking your business? Okay, what's the name of the guarantee service?
SLAs or SLOs or proxies that you can...
SLA. The SLA
SLAs,
is
yeah.
like 90% of usage of the year. Okay, but you need to consider it. You don't want to block the business. Then what's the cost for pinging these models, and what's the number of customers that you're dealing with? Because now, like for Synthesia, when I'm working now, using external models would be pretty hard for us because we are serving thousands of people, and we do need GPUs, right? So what could be the cost that we should support? An external provider would charge you a lot. We say, you need GPUs? Yeah, no worries. This is the bill. Of course, you need to start thinking something that can be also money saving. So what if you can use spot instances? What if you can use maybe sharing the same process across multiple GPUs? Sorry, different process across same GPUs and so on. So it really depends on your business. That's why I say you do need to put things into the MLOps perspective and start to understand really what's your business value, what your business wants to do. Because the step from going from spending $0 to spending $1 million is very narrow nowadays, especially with these LLMs, because everyone wants to use it.
Yeah.
So, but overall, how to say? Yeah, I'm actually love this idea. It's definitely amazing, and it's also easy to realize. It's not something impossible. I think nowadays we can do it in not in a week, in a month. We just some Terraform in the middle, and you also have everything as a code. Overall, it really depends on the business. So that's why it's very hard to give you a neat answer on this.
It's funny. I've been trying to craft the perfect tweet around this idea of, you want to know how to be really valuable at your job as a data engineer, ML engineer, data scientist. Get really good at understanding auto scaling and make sure that you have that on point, and you are going to be very loved in your job.
Auto scaling, and also let's go for some multiprocessing, which is always useful. But auto scaling doesn't come for free, which means it's true. You need to understand it, but try to understand as deeply as you can. Because I think there's always a surprise when you're using auto scaling mechanisms. We spotted a lot of times when we were using our Kubernetes infrastructure that auto scaling was either going to skyrocket level or wasn't working at all. Why? Because all the settings were right? We set up everything correctly. We say don't use these, and he was using this. Oh shit! So auto scaling is a great mechanism, but as you said, study deeply how to use it exactly, because it can also skyrocket your build as well. Just to go back on the build discussion. So I think only if spinning up A100s, 100 A100 instances at the same time. But you're right. This is something that nowadays is getting more and more important.
Well, that's why I was saying that you're super valuable if you can be the expert in the auto scaling, because it's so easy to lose money so quickly.
Yeah.
If you don't configure everything properly, or you don't set up the alerts or the limits or whatever it may be, then I get the feeling that everyone's gone through that story that you just told, where you're like, I wonder why it's so expensive all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. So bear in mind, but very good advice, really.
Yeah, that's what I've heard some people put it, that when you have those mistakes, like the auto scaling mistake, and it is a little bit expensive, all you did there is you paid a dumb tax or a stupid tax, and that's the tax you have to pay for being stupid.
Yeah, well, that's a price, isn't it? Unfortunately, but let's pass the message. We're not perfect, so
Yeah.
So to everybody, especially to managers, if engineers do mistakes, it's okay. We are humans.
Happens.
So there's no way. I made tons of mistakes. Actually, when I was delivering the shiny, amazing ML platform, for a week, our main model wasn't running correctly. Why? Because I forgot to add a flag to the model, a simple flag, like just a dash something text to the model. I say, oh dear. So it's mistakes are there, even in production.
Yeah.
Might cost some money, but what can we do?
What are some other ways that you or some people that you've worked with have had to pay that tax?
Many people, all the people I know, they're working with this, are doing this. There are always huge problems in production. Like there's people that left some even simple Lambda functions running in the background for standard systems, right? And gosh, unfortunately, we're spinning up God only knows what because the setup was wrong, and I spent like $50,000 in a weekend.
Oops.
Well,
yeah, you log out on Friday.
Yeah,
my job's done here.
Exactly. So, come on. But like, gosh, I have some stories, but I can tell you. But there are many stories of people like even the simplest autoscaling you can think of, like Dataflow itself. That's also is a product that I like because it allows you to create the easy data pipelines with Apache Beam. It has an autoscaling mechanism, right? But as you said, study deeply how it works, because just mess up with a number, puts like 100 nodes as a maximum or whatever, and the autoscaler doesn't recognize this number. And I do, it has happened that it's going to scale up to 1,000 nodes. And of course you say, why there's a spike in the cost here? Oh dear. And it's a stupid problem again. So these stories are, I think they're always easy. I actually remember, okay, this is, I don't know if I should say this, but I will. When I started my career as an MLOps engineer, the very first thing I've done was to also transition from AWS to GCP. And I didn't know how exactly this company was working with GCP. Said, okay, these are my keys in JSON, okay. I don't know, maybe it was during the lockdown, and so it wasn't totally my right shape. I just do GitHub.
You were watching videos on WhatsApp while you were deploying.
I just do a GitHub add everything. Shit. I even push my GCP keys publicly on GitHub. So anyone could have actually access to GCP, our GCP environment. Say, whoa, thank God. Here is a matter of now what's MLOps checking for sex security, right? Immediately spotted, say, oh, here there's a huge terrible flag. Wait. So, well, I'm the first one to say we're human. Things happen.
Yeah, that's fun, man. Well, another thing that I'm really excited about is the course that you just put together for the MLOps community learning platform. And I think it's pretty special because you basically walk through the process of standing up a platform. And it's soup to nuts. It's very thorough. And you're using one of my favorite platforms. You show people how to use Kubeflow, right?
Yeah, exactly. And even how to install Kubeflow locally, which is a nightmare. So don't
you
try
said it.
this.
I'm glad you said it and I didn't.
Yes.
Because
I've even said this in the course, but don't try this at home unless you're following my course. So yes, so the idea of the course is just to be an interface to students or people who are interested in MLOps and want to give it a try and start to learn really MLOps. And I think this refers to the discussion we were having about how we can standardize MLOps. And so if we can find common patterns for most of the tasks that we have to do. So it covers like data processing, model training, and model experimenting or tracking, not model deployment, because as I said, there are multiple solutions. It wants to be a very first gentle course for everybody. The idea is to just guide students and people throughout what the industry wants, and what I've learned so far, which might be a very simple course to follow to have the right transition into the MLOps perspective. So I'm spending a lot of minutes of the course explaining what's the MLOps perspective. So how we should subdivide each problem into the MLOps perspective. So data processing, what it means and why, what's the model training from the data science point of view and from the MLOps point of view, why we need to track experiments and so on. So it's like me guiding with my hands all throughout the course and showing, said, hey, be careful here, and giving a lot of caveats, but also a lot of freedom. Like, I don't want people to get crazy with quiz or tests and say, oh, don't have time. I want people to enjoy and practically on their own. We're using the GCP platform, which comes also for free if you want to start with initially. And that's a good case for you to learn, have your hands dirty, which is my preferred approach, and start really to make up. I also give bonus pipelines, like a pipeline that scrape data from Google or and gives you a cloud of words. So there are many little things, but it wants to be really what is missing, like a gentle introduction to this MLOps world.
Well, the cool thing about the ideas that you propose there, where you're saying there's the tech part, which is great, but inevitably that's going to change. That's going to constantly be changing. As time moves on, there's going to be better ways to do it. But the mindset and the way that you approach these problems and understanding what the motives are behind the data scientists, the data engineers, the ML platform engineers, what each job and responsibility and how these folks think about it is going to be invaluable as you progress in your career.
Exactly. So, what I want also to give to people is a conceptual or critical way of thinking, right? So the technology stack is that one. We can maybe make it stand or whatever, but the cool thing is be critical about the tools that you're going to use. And this refers also to all our conversation. So what I'm showing as well is like Apache Beam, why we should use it, why we should not use it, what are the pain points of using it, pros and cons, and so on. For all the packages, for all the products that we have, a good engineer has maybe a structured way of thinking, saying, okay, my business has this problem. I can see on the internet that we have these tools to solve it. Why should I use tool A rather than tool B? And so on. So then this refers also to all the soft skills I was speaking about before. And it's all part of a big soup it has a huge value.
Well, and just thinking about the questions that you should be asking. How should I examine this issue that's in front of me? It's funny you mentioned that because I'm literally reading this book right now called Bulletproof Problem Solving. It's by a few ex-McKinsey consultants, bigwigs, but it talks about breaking down very complex questions or problems into decision trees and understanding them and being able to tell where you need to do research and what kind of outcomes you're looking for and defining the problems. I'm really loving it. I've heard that some people are like, but it takes the creativity out of things. I don't know. So far, I think that might just be the way that you approach it, and creative people are going to be creative in general. But the idea is sound. Like, how do I approach a problem? How do I know which questions to ask? And when I'm looking at a ML platform and I'm thinking about different tools that I want to add in here, what kind of questions should I be looking at? I think that's one of the reasons that so many people like Joe Reese's book, because in each section of the data engineering lifecycle that he maps out, right, he has what you should be thinking about. What questions should you be asking in this lifecycle piece, right? And so if it's ingestion or if it's transformation, and by how you answer that, it gives you a few constraints, and then it helps you make your decisions a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because if you're just going off of, oh, well, it's new, it's got a lot of attention around it, I've heard good things from people about XYZ tool, that's not going to be the most
100%.
adequate way of doing it. And so, yeah, man, I appreciate you creating the course. Hopefully a bunch of people out there go and they check it out and they learn a ton from you. This has been really fun.
It was really nice. No, it was really nice. I hope people will like it. And also they can write a comment, say, Stefano, you're being too serious, please add some fun to the course. That maybe some points I was very serious when it comes to explain Kubeflow and how to install it. You need to embrace yourself. But
so if this is the 101 course, what's going to be the 202 course? What's the next edition?
God only knows, but definitely something about, everyone is trying to do something about LLMs, so it might be training LLMs, dealing with LLMs. We can explore that path. It might be even something, either LLMs or something very, very, very technical like infrastructure as code.
Nice.
Because
I like it.
Terraform, unfortunately, guys, Terraform, we do need it. We do need it. We are having our ML platform being screwed up.
Yeah.
So the materials, we can talk about it.
I love it. And if anybody has any other ideas on courses, just hit us up in the comments, because we're building out the MLOps community learning platform. And I think it is a great excuse to get some of the incredible people like yourself in the community to create courses for the platform and disseminate the knowledge amongst the other community members.
Too kind. Well, it's a way to give back to the community because there's a mutual benefit to learn also from the Slack channel.
Boom, there we go.